This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hell and Back podcast for another opposition preview, this time ahead of the Sunday match against Birmingham City, proudly sponsored by Pearson's Bar in Hull and 6 Yards Out. Thank you very much to everyone who voted for us in the Football Content Awards 2022. I believe the voting has ended, but if you find a way to still vote for us, go for it, but I don't think you'll be able to. And we've also got a newish merch store, so you can buy a To Hell and Back mug. Every week I say I will buy one and have it in the next episode. I haven't done that yet, but I assure you can buy them, although I've not seen anyone do that. So get on that, and the merch store is called It's a Funny Old Game. That's the name of the website. So as I said, we're previewing the Sunday match against Birmingham City with Tommy from Blues Focus. So thanks for coming on. How are you doing this evening, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'd be better if Hull City weren't so miserable to watch. Most of the last few weeks we've been speaking to fans who are much happier about their situation. So Birmingham in 16th. How is it generally to be a Birmingham City fan at the moment?
Well, it's better than it probably could be, that's for sure. We're in a bit of a mess off the pitch. So for the team to be doing well on the pitch is good. John Eustace, since he's arrived, has done really well. He's gotten the players playing some good football. He's made some really good signings in Chong and Bielik and John Ruddy as well, who I think have been really key instrumental players in the team so far this season. And it's been really pleasurable to watch at times. So I feel like, keeping that up and we'll have a decent season.
Cool. Well, I wish I felt the same about my team, but oh well. So, the first thing I wrote down, especially as I saw another, I can't remember the name of the old Watford owner who might want to buy the club. What's going on? Bassini, there we go. What on earth is going on with the ownership at Birmingham City at the moment?
It's gone very quiet again. It was very up and in the air sort of stuff in the summer, but it's gone really quiet now. The people in charge, technically, are selling bits of their shares. So realistically, they're it's not where it was like they were going to originally get rid of the whole of the investments within the club and sell up. It's now like they're going to sort of sell their shares off to different people who would be interested. So at the moment, Richardson and Lopez, Paul Richardson's obviously a Blues fan himself. So, they're looking into taking over the club eventually, but at the moment they've only got a small part of the club and they've got like a limited say on it. But as long as we can stay as far away as Bassini as possible, then that's just as fine.
Yeah, so are the other people involved other than him, are you happy with that situation at the moment?
I can't really say. It's difficult to sort of work out really, because obviously you want to back somebody who's a Blues fan, but there again, there's not much to really go off, really. So I'd say I was reasonably optimistic for it, yes.
Okay, well, that's good because, during the summer, hearing the TalkSport interviews with Bassini, it was kind of horrifying, really. And that's sort of resurfaced the other day. And the second thing I've got is Birmingham defying expectations somewhat, because I remember at the start of the season, same with Reading and Rotherham. I don't know whether everyone said this, but it felt like that. Everyone pretty much, including myself, predicted Birmingham, Rotherham and Reading to get relegated and win no matches at all combined. So 16th, I mean, that's better than bottom.
It's better than bottom, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why hasn't it gone as everyone expected and predicted?
I don't think that people... obviously, because the players aren't as bad as people were expecting them to be, really. I think Bakuna is one of the best players in the Championship. I think anybody would snatch him up. Same with Chong and Hannibal as well. Bielik as well, ever since he came in the first game against Preston, we've looked like a changed team, really. So it's just that we've gotten some smart players, players who will play their role and players who will sort of bring the team together. Where I think before, where we've bought players, it's been like players who, sort of look good on paper, but really don't really perform on the pitch then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like I said at the start, Eustace has made some really smart signings. It's like he's looked for players that are going to do the role that he wants to have in that team. So it's rather than going out and buying the bigger name, perhaps, he's gone out there and got the players that he needs. And that's why we're doing pretty right. We're doing pretty well at the moment.
So you finished 20th last season, one of the few teams to finish below us. Do you expect Birmingham to finish higher this season?
I'd be happy with just finishing above 17th, that's for sure, because we haven't finished above there for, I want to say 6 seasons. I might be wrong on that. So it's been a boring few seasons, really. Well, not boring, but sort of dull, as in like it's been, there's little spikes of optimism here and there, but there's no consistency, and that's why I get a little bit optimistic with this season, where I feel like we could hit a good bit of form, really, and sort of kick on and start to work towards something. But there again, things off the pitch are always the trouble with us at the moment, because the team we've got at the moment is good enough to finish in the top half of the table. But we've got Bielik, who is only on loan at the moment, but could go back to Derby in January. So there's that. And then would people want to buy Chong in the January transfer window? Would people want to buy Bakuna? Is Deeney and Hogan going to be fit enough? There's those sort of things that disrupt the team. And that's what the people off the pitch need to get a hold of. And they just haven't for the past 6 or so seasons. That's why we are very inconsistent and it can be those below 17 finishes every year.
Well, I mean, Birmingham a little bit like how Wigan used to be, and Birmingham, Sunderland in the Premier League, sort of just keeping up every season. But so it's nice to hear a bit of optimism that you think maybe this season will be different. Probably won't be, but I guess it'd be nice to see Birmingham do well. And I've just remembered it. I'll forget it later, so I'll mention it now. Is Seb Larsson, who's retired today, is he a Birmingham legend or something?
Yeah, I would consider him a legend. I mean, he's done a hell of a lot for us, really, in the time that he was with us. He was one of my favourite players when I was a young person. It was the screamer he scored against Spurs, the penalty he scored against the Villa in the Cup. He scored some really important goals for us, and he was a very good, exciting player to have on the pitch. I remember bits from him, but it was sort of hard to remember like real proper moments from him, because it was a little bit too young at the time, perhaps. But I always loved him as a player, and obviously he was a player for use for us as well in the Championship.
Yes, I've seen him score a free kick in person. So, and I like my Scandinavian players. So I was, I liked Larsson before he came here, and it was nice to see him in the flesh as a City player. So I just thought I'd mention that he's retired at the age of 150 or something like that.
He's getting on a bit now. I think he's like 38 or something.
Yeah. So you've mentioned how you like John Eustace. Today I saw that there was an interview with ITV Sport. He says he wants to stay despite some rumours that he might go to another club. So what other clubs were those that have been linked with him, and how important would it be for him to stay at Birmingham?
Well, of course, it would be massively important that he stays, because we've not really got anybody else otherwise. Then it's like we can't keep hold of Eustace. Who else is going to step in and take that role, really? So I think there was Huddersfield who were interested in him for a bit. That was fairly recently. But I don't think he would go to Huddersfield. I feel like we're very similar in terms of where we are in the Championship at the moment. So I don't think he would go there. I don't think he would think to leave anyway as well, though, because I feel like he's got a good role here at the Blues. He's made himself, he's got himself a little bit of reputation for, no, it's not reputation, that's the word I mean, but he's sort of like, he's got a bit of respect, really, for making this team play well in difficult circumstances. I feel like if he sticks out a couple of seasons, perhaps, then he could perhaps maybe look for a higher end Championship role, maybe as a manager or as a coach or whatever he prefers to use that role as. But yeah, I feel like he should stay with us because I think going to Huddersfield, it might even be a bit more difficult for him because he's coming in mid-season, working with players he's not already been used to. Yeah, he sticks at the Blues for a bit, then he can work about that further on down the line.
Yeah, I mean, if I was at Birmingham, a kind of low mid-table budget club in the Championship, I'm not going to move to another one who were in a lower position halfway through the season. It doesn't really seem like a good option for him. So, yeah, if it's Huddersfield he's being linked with, I think he probably would stay. So you've mentioned some of the signings already. I think you've made 7, and you mentioned the 2 players from Man United. Are they on loan? Chong and Hannibal Medribri or something like that?
Maybury, I think, is how you pronounce
Maybe.
it. I don't really call him by his last name. I call him by Hannibal. It's just the easiest way. I don't want people coming up to me and saying, listen, that's not how you say his name or anything like that. So I just go for calling him Hannibal. But we've bought Chong for about 2 million, I think. I'm not too sure, 2.4, something like that. So for the player that we've got for him is a good price. Hannibal's alone, and he's looked really feisty and really up and at it since he's come. I feel like he's been the one that I think people have been really keeping an eye on because he's a young kid. He's from Man United. We got a bit of what we saw about Chong last season, but it wasn't quite at the levels that we thought it could be, as like he would be like the best player in the Championship. But he's still been really good. He's still been really quick and technical and agile of the ball. Where I think with Hannibal, I feel like people have got that same sort of feeling back with him, like they had with Chong last season, where they thought this kid could be like the best player in the Championship. Really, it's that sort of feeling you get from him because he's got such a high work rate and he works his arse off every single game. He's just up and down the pitch, covers every single blade of grass. It's like he's that type of player I feel like people would get really excited about, and it's a great player to bring off from the bench as well because we've started a couple of games now where we've put Bielik, Chong and Bakuna in the midfield, and then when the game gets on the pitch, we bring him on and he starts tearing about the place, and we suddenly get another injection of life almost. So I think that's the sort of feeling we get with Hannibal. It's like he's our new sort of mini Michael Kifton-Belder. He used to be our old player as well. He was proper British football, tearing to every challenge sort of player he was.
Were you surprised that Birmingham got Chong? Because, I don't think about Birmingham thinking that they spend a lot of money on players. And so were you surprised that you could get him on a permanent?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about it at first because obviously it was in the summer transfer window and worrying about sort of prices and budgets. And obviously we were hearing at the time as well, we needed to ship out some of the more higher earners just so that we could, sort of keep afloat really. And we haven't really done that. So there's a little bit of a burden perhaps lying on that, maybe on some of the people's shoulders, worried about maybe the budget that we've still got to play with. But I was happy with it. Don't get me wrong. It was the same with when we got Bielik on the loan. But it's with Chong, it's like, well, can we actually afford that? Is that going to be a bit of a miss maybe or whatever? But since then, we've not really had to worry about it. It's been like, it's been really good to have him back. He's been really energetic, really agile like he was last season. So I was surprised by it. Like I say, I was worried about it at the time. But at the moment, it doesn't look like there's any issues or any sort of repercussions from that. So I feel like just as long as we sort of keep hold of this team for the rest of the season, then we can worry about budgets and off-field stuff, when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah. Okay. So some other players you've signed, Placheta from Norwich on loan, the Polish winger, and Trusty from Arsenal.
Yes.
How have those two been? Because it seems a lot of loan players.
Yeah, we've actually exceeded the loan player amounts. I think it is I think it's 6. It might be something. It's around that sort of number, but we have exceeded it. And I think Placheta, who's not been performing up to the quite standard that he hasn't been playing those amount of games because of obviously the loan exceeding limits. But I was impressed with him, but I don't think that he could sort of live up to the standards of the Championship. I don't know if he's injured at the moment, which might be why he's not playing as much. But, I feel like the mentality of him isn't quite up there with some of the other players we've got in on loan, like Austin Trusty, who battles away. He's very tidy. He's very up to play all the time. And I feel like he could be a possible low-end Premier League player in a few years' time. I feel like he has that ability to go and do it. Whether he will or not is obviously, I don't know at the moment, but I feel like he definitely has that ability because his work rate and his understanding of the game is very clear to see. And, that he hasn't really put a foot wrong since he's come, really. Every single time I've seen him on the ball, he looks really calm. His switching with the play is very good. And he, like I say, he's just a very tidy player. But with Placheta, it's kind of like, I feel like if he was a little bit more headstrong and had that little bit more battle to win, I feel like he could perhaps push on and become a bit more of a better Championship player, which is obviously why he's not been in the Norwich team and he's come on loan to us. Because there's been plenty of times already this season where I've seen him and he's gone, like he's gone in for a challenge and he's not put everything into it, or he's received the ball and looked a bit nervous on it. He looks a bit, sort of distant to the ball almost. And I feel like if he just went into like challenges a bit more, it's again with a lot of Championship players when you do see them and you feel like they're not giving 100% effort. And I definitely do feel like he's putting all of it in, but it doesn't look like it. And looking like it is really key in the Championship, which is why people look at Hannibal and go, he's got it. So it's like that with Placheta. It's like if you showed the effort a bit more, then I feel like people would cut him some slack and give him a little bit more respect.
And then there's two more. I think is Dion Sanderson, another loan player. I think he's going to miss the match. How much of a miss is that going to be?
Yeah, it's tough for us because we've got to rotate quite a lot now. So we've had a really good game against Bristol City where we had a very firm lineup. Everybody's in the right positions. But now obviously he's out for the game on Sunday. It's Saturday. It's wondering whether we go for a five at the back and moving our right back Maxime Collin into centre back to play along our other two centre backs, Harley Dean and Austin Trusty, and play Jordan Graham, who's a right midfielder, wing back, or whether we keep Maxime Collin at right wing back and move Bielik into that centre back role with Dean and Trusty. But with this being the Blues, it's kind of difficult to tell what we're going to play really because we have played Graham at wing back before, and Bielik has only stuck to defensive midfield since he's come back. So I imagine that's what we'll do. But I wouldn't be against having Bielik at centre back because I feel like he can definitely do that role. But it's a kick in the teeth for us though, because it's like we probably could kick on a little bit of form there. But obviously with the difference in that, the change in that right-hand side, I feel like definitely on the weekend, that is something that you should definitely look towards getting down that right-hand side a bit more because I like Jordan Graham, but he's not a wing back. It's like whenever you play somebody in out of position, it's already difficult to whatever position on the pitch you suddenly then have to go and play in. It takes time for you to understand that role and having to get into that groove of it. So I feel like going down that right-hand side for use on Sunday will be crucial.
What would you do if you were the manager? How would you sort that defensive issue out?
For the Blues or for Hull? Or for Blues,
for you, yeah.
I think I would play Bielik at centre back, even though it's a little bit of a coward move, perhaps maybe just to play that sort of really defensive idea and put other players. But I feel like we've got a midfield then at least, which obviously we can do that with Bielik in midfield, but it's then you've got the bad defence then. But then it's which one do you sacrifice really? So I'd move Bielik into that five and play Dean and Trusty next to him, and our two wing backs of Maxime Collin and the West Ham loanee who we have, who's called Longello, and then keep a midfield three of Chong, Bakuna, and then we'll play Hannibal. So I feel like that's our midfield three, with Deeney and Hogan up top maybe, which I feel like is a decent team. It's just when you start putting Jordan Graham putting a right midfielder at wing back, I feel like that's when you start to create issues for yourself.
It's not as reliable, is it? Really?
Yeah, completely, yeah.
Yeah, we had to do that a lot last season. So Might as well bring it up now. I was going to jinx us at some point this evening. I thought, especially with the match at Huddersfield, it was a Yorkshire derby, we were away, we were on Sky. Huddersfield hadn't won in a while. I think there might have been some other bad omens for us, but this is a good omen for Hull City. Birmingham have lost their last 6 trips to Hull with an aggregate score of, well, what do you think the aggregate score might be? Or how many goals Hull have scored in the last six games?
It must be something like 17 or something like that for you.
Yeah, it's 20 and 3. Wow. Birmingham scored 3 goals, we've scored 20. So 5-2, 2-0, 6-1, 2-0, 3-0, and 2-0. So, I mean, this is our banker. If we don't win this, we're in serious trouble, really, just because we usually do beat Birmingham City at home. So I just wanted to bring that up and make sure we don't win because I've mentioned it now. But you're Birmingham doing quite well at the moment, not just higher than us in the table, but in some decent form. 3 wins in 6 and only 1 defeat. Has there been like a shift in the way you've been playing recently? What's been the key to this successful period?
Well, I think it's the manager, John Eustace, really. I think he's just a bit of a better coach than Bowyer, really. I don't think that his managing is any different from him, really. I just feel like he's understood the game better and he's learned to, play players in the right places and what football to play. And obviously, I've got a bit of a bias towards Bowyer, obviously, because he used to be a manager. He used to be a player of us, obviously, and he was a proper legend for us. But with Eustace, you can clearly see that he's got stuff that he wants to put into the team immediately. With Bowyer, I always thought that he came in with the team and thought, he's sort of just there to, sort of stop a sinking ship almost. But I think that's why we have been playing better recently. I don't think the players are any different. The players, they're not as bad as they were. Well, they're not any different as they were last season. It's just that we've been playing a better style of football now. So I feel like that's how we're starting to pick up better form. We've still got similar players that we did last season. So I feel like people have sort of been surprised by it and almost perplexed as to why we've been playing better recently. But John Eustace is definitely the answer, in my opinion. I definitely feel like he's come in and he's played his football. He's took on some criticism. He's fed it well with the media. He's not really said too much. He's been standing his ground. He had a bit of a pop at Nathan. I forgot his name now. The Luton manager on the first day of the season, he was saying he was having a moan at how Blues were playing on the first day, and he said, "Well, I don't really care really." So I feel like that's just sort of the attitude he's got, and the tactics clearly do show better than we were playing last season. So I feel like that is why we are playing better this season.
Okay, cool. I wish we had a manager that I could talk about, making City do well at the moment, but we don't really have one. We do have Andy Dawson, who looks like he's going to be the manager for the next 3 games because we've got one in midweek. But then after that, hopefully we do have a new manager, or he's done really well and deserves the job full time. Do you have any thoughts on Hull City in general? Are you surprised where we are in the table, perhaps?
A little bit, yeah, with the spendings and the investments over the summer. But I feel like you've done something that we did a couple of seasons ago under Harry Redknapp, where we bought so many players. It's almost become a bit difficult to sort of balance them all up. Obviously, you've got one of our old players as well, Brian Woods now, who when he went there, it was like, okay, that's fair enough, but is he really fitting? Do you really need him? Is he fitting the team? Obviously, I don't know because I don't watch Hull City week in, week out. But it's that sort of similar situation, I think, that you guys are in, where I feel like a couple of signings here and there would be better for the team, obviously, because, they're fitting in and with a new team and everything. But I don't know how many signings you've made, but it feels like quite a lot just from looking at the amount of that's come in.
I think it was something like 14, 15.
Yeah.
I can't actually remember the number now. It wasn't as many as Nottingham Forest, but it was basically like that. Ryan Woods has done okay. Really, he has had to play because we had a serious injury crisis, so he has played matches. but looking back at it, I mean, he's a defensive-minded midfielder, and so is Jean-Michel Seri. But really, we needed a player that, like, they're sort of deep-lying playmakers rather than combative players that can put a tackle in. So I think we should have signed someone more like that, more like Kieftenbeld, perhaps, rather than Woods, who can pass forward. Really, we don't need someone who can pass. We just need someone who can put a foot in, because our midfield doesn't really do that. So, yeah, I mean, you've sort of talked about the lineup already, but do you want to just run through that again? What's the 11 do you think is going to be for Birmingham on Sunday?
Yeah, definitely stick with my idea I had earlier with Ruddy in goal, a back five of Maxi and Colin at wing back with Longello. I don't know how you pronounce his name. I want to learn that before I keep on saying it too much. But Bielik in the middle, so he can sort of go into the midfield and back into the defence with Dean and Trusty. And then a midfield three of Hannibal, Chong and Bakuna, with front two of Scott Oak and Troy Deeney, who I'm hoping will at least get a goal on the weekend, because I'm not too optimistic, obviously, from the past form of their your ground for a while. It's I'm not too optimistic for it, but I'd like to at least get a goal or something, because I feel like if we come away with the points, particularly if we play Graham at wing back, then I feel like it's a difficult place to go and get a point for us usually. So I feel like if we come away with points on the weekend, I'd be happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a draw for Birmingham with their record would be good, but really, anyone who doesn't beat us at the moment is rubbish. I don't want to sugarcoat it. We are rubbish. So yeah, what's your score prediction for the match?
I've not been very consistent actually with stuff that I've been predicting over the past week or so, but I'm going to go with a 1-1 because I've had thoughts about it before coming on the podcast tonight. I thought maybe like a 1-0 or something for us before, but then I'm thinking that form in recent years, that's always sort of that's always an additional thing to think about. So I'm going to go 1-1. I'd just like us to see a score, really. It's been so long to see it since we've scored at your place for a while.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not been since 2018, and then that was at 6-0 down. So yeah, I don't really know what it's going to be. I'd like to think that we're much better at home than away, which I think we are. I think even though we've had a really diabolical start, if we do win on Sunday, which we might do, potentially, it's not out of the question. I think we'll get into the playoffs for home record, which would be ludicrous considering how terrible we've been. So, I mean, again, I have no particular reason why I think this is going to happen other than the previous form and just a bit of pointless optimism, I guess. Yeah. A 2-1 City win. We're not going to keep a clean sheet, definitely, but Troy Deeney might score a penalty. Perhaps we like to give away penalties. So, but really, I mean, it could be anything. I'm not very optimistic either. Maybe a draw, as you said.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the worst result for us, to be honest. Anything else you want to mention about Birmingham that I've not thought about?
I don't know. There's different things with different parts of the club, really. It's like, if you want to talk about the team, we're doing pretty well. But if you want to talk about the ownership and behind the scenes, I don't know. It's not been very active, really. So it's like, I feel like I worry for the club a little bit if we go on a little bit of a bad run of form, which could be possible with these next few games, you know. Obviously, like, we don't do well at yours, but we've got Burnley next. And then I don't know who we've got after that. So we might be QPR, and we don't particularly do well against them either. So 3 losses in a row, that could potentially be, you know, the turn could then be towards the people behind the scenes to sort of be like, you know, is this going to be okay, pretty much? And obviously not hearing off them for so long, it's kind of like probably not, or at least in a very unnerving way. So it could be all right, but they wouldn't tell us in a way that it's very satisfying. So it's always very up and down with the owners and behind the scenes. Whereas obviously on the pitch, the evidence is in front of you. You can see it. So hopefully the team on the pitch keeps on doing well, because I do worry for us off the pitch a little bit. So I think that's our situation, really.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly one to look at and keep an eye on. So maybe if you want to come back for the return fixture, whenever that is, it'll be interesting to see what the situation is in a few months' time. No idea. I mean, it might be another 3-3 match. In Birmingham. That would be fun. Yeah, because it's 2 of the last 3 games have been 3-3 in Birmingham. So those are usually quite fun. Less fun for you lot in the whole though. So thank you very much for coming on. You're part of the Blues Focus podcast. Where can people find all that stuff?
You can find all of our stuff. We do matchday vlogs that I personally do myself. We do podcasts. We do match reviews and everything, which will all be available on our YouTube channel, Blues Focus TV. You can also check us out on Instagram and Twitter as well if you search for Blues Focus. I don't know our @ particularly because there's a lot of underscores in it. And as well, you can find us on Spotify as well. So listen to our latest podcast, which we put up today. It went really well. So be sure to go check that out as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what we've got to offer. Okay,
well, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you've had a lovely time, and I hope you're miserable by like 6 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah. 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, roughly, yeah.
Not too miserable, but I'd take another 6-1. I think we really need that at the moment. Okay, thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for joining and listening, and we'll be back at some point to do some previews for, I think, Rotherham match and Blackpool and all sorts coming up. So thanks for joining, and stay safe.